Hilton Honors has just given us all a giant, humongous middle finger. They have now done their third major points devaluation within the last 12 months. Hilton Honors points are making Delta Sky pesos look valuable by comparison. Let's briefly talk about what the changes are and what I recommend doing about them. So a few of the most famous Hilton properties with the best points redemptions have just essentially been nuked. Waldorf Astoria in the Maldives, as well as Waldorf Astoria Los Cabos Pedregal, two of the best Hilton properties and best Hilton points redemptions historically, have now gone up to 250,000 points per night. This is making Bonvoy look like a steal comparatively. Previously, these properties were at 200,000 for Waldorf Astoria Maldives and 190,000 for Waldorf Astoria Cabo. But it does not end there. Conrad Maldives, which previously was bookable for about 95,000 points a night, is now going for 200,000 points a night. It has seen a 100% increase. Other properties such as Roku Kyoto have gone from around 110 to 120, now up to 140. And we've just seen massive devaluations across the board for aspirational Hilton properties. The points are becoming less and less valuable with time, that's a given. But what we're seeing is just such cavalier disregard for any value of points redemptions. This is unique across other points dynamic programs because devaluations are expected. That is not what this video is to complain about. What is insane is the absurdity of these devaluations and also the absurdity of how close the timeline is together. The fact that they have the audacity to do 3 major devaluations within a 12-month period is ridiculous. It shows a complete and utter disrespect for people that are loyal to Hilton. This is why I will just go out and make this statement. I think you, as an individual, probably should not be loyal to Hilton. They've shown that they don't care about how their status is treated. They're willing to give it away to anyone with a credit card. It's a very good credit card, and it's very useful status in some cases. But why would I go out and earn status if a credit card will give it to me? They've shown that they don't care about their points program. They're willing to devalue without any notice, mind you, many times, back to back to back to back, significant devaluations. And so why would you be loyal to this program? Because they've clearly shown they are not willing to show any loyalty of any kind to any of their customers. This isn't to say that you cannot get value out of the Hilton program. I'll talk a little bit more later in the video about how I think people should react to this. And you absolutely can still get value. And there are still some great Hilton properties that you can still get good value at. But as an individual, this should just absolutely be in your head that they do not care about acting on customer-friendly policies. I understand there's a need for devaluation sometimes. That is fine. How could they have handled this in a proper way? For one, if you're going to do a devaluation, maybe let your members know. Wild idea, I know, right? Like, it's no one else does that. Oh, wait, Hyatt does that. They do the exact thing. Hyatt devalues pretty much every year, but guess what? They let the members know about it in advance. So if you've been stocking up your points forever, it's like, hey, you might want to use them right now. And obviously, Hyatt lets you know exactly what the points changes are going to be. Oh, Hilton's a dynamic program. No, it's not. They call it a dynamic program. They're bucketed into standard room slots, and it's just dynamic because Hilton can just change it whenever they feel like. All they had to do was just let the members know in advance for any of one of these 3 devaluations, and it would have been infinitely more consumer friendly. They're devaluing at such a rate that it is, in and of itself, the rate is unconsumer friendly because you naturally assume once there is a devaluation that there would be a cool down period in between. But no, it just seems that they're just having this rapid fire back-to-back we don't care devaluations. If they cared about their members, all they would have had to done is just send out a little notice saying, hey, on this date, on this time, the points prices on some of the properties are going to be changing. I don't even need them to say what the prices are going to be going to. Maybe just let me know the properties that are changing. That would have been totally reasonable. So my takeaway here is do not feel like you need to have any loyalty to any program, but especially Hilton Honors in this case, because they have just shown that it doesn't matter if you've been loyal to them, you've been hoarding your points, you've been stacking up and earning for years and years and years. They're willing to basically just wipe most of the value away within a 1-year period without any notice at any time to any of their members. Now, what do I recommend you do about this? And how do I recommend you play the game because of this? So let's be very clear. Hilton certificates are still extraordinarily valuable. And until there are changes to those, which could very well come in the near future, those certificates are extraordinarily valuable. They can be used at any or virtually any Hilton property in the world, as long as standard rooms are available. And one could make the argument because of this devaluation, the value of those certificates has gone up. It's a weird argument to make, but it is true because, right, if the points price is more expensive and these certificates work for an unlimited, in theory, points price, they're more valuable. So if you want to stay at a property like Waldorf Astoria Maldives, Waldorf Astoria Los Cabos Pedregal, use certificates. Try to actually get the Aspire card. As in the current form of it, the Aspire card, as much as I have my problem with the way Hilton Honors is running their program and how absurd this is a ridiculously good credit card. The way I view this is my only, and I quite literally mean my only interaction within the Hilton Honors program is with their credit cards, is with the Aspire card specifically. Without the Aspire card, I would not be staying at Hilton properties, like ever. I'm not saying I have a problem with Hilton properties. A lot of their luxury portfolio is quite nice. It's that I would not be staying there because I wouldn't have a reason to stay there. The status isn't recognized better than any other status I have. The points are less valuable than any of the other hotel points that I have. So there's no way for me to stay there at a reasonable cost compared to any of the other programs. And I'd rather just earn elite qualifying nights in any of the other programs. So Hilton Aspire card, that's where I still view the value at. If you do want to stay, if there's Hilton properties that are of interest to you, get one or many Aspire cards. Between me and a few players in my household, we're at basically, I think it's like 10 or 11 now. And these absolutely make sense because you have the airline credit, you have the resort credit, you have the free night certificate. It absolutely, positively, 100% pays itself back with a big return, in my book at least. So I think focus on the certificates, focus on the credit cards if you still want to get value out of Hilton Honors. If, let's say, you don't want to get a bunch of credit cards that have $550 annual fees, which is understandable, I would basically say if you have Hilton points left, try to use them at maybe a property that hasn't been hit as hard. Some properties like Waldorf Astoria Osaka, it was hit in one of the recent devaluations, but not this one. It's 120,000 points a night, which is a lot of points still, but hey, it wasn't hit by devaluation. I don't know if Waldorf Astoria Monarch Beach was hit. I would not be surprised. I know Waldorf Astoria Maui was hit pretty bad. So try to use these points because I think if there's any evidence we've seen from Hilton is that they're just willing to like devalue these things all willy-nilly with no notice, back to back. Doesn't matter if they've done it twice this year already. They got to do it a third time just because they feel like it. Look, I don't know what's going on in terms of the economics of these points redemptions. And maybe it's just costing Hilton like an arm and a leg because these are a lot of these properties are really the only good values for Hilton points. But I would say like if you're going to design a program that has aspirational redemptions, right, like that have these redemption rates, you should probably just let your members know in advance. I feel like that would have been a very fair thing to do. So this is a very bad devaluation, like really bad, one of the worst hotel points devaluations we've actually ever seen, especially with how it's being totally no notice. But I would just basically say be very careful of dynamic programs and remember how a company is willing to treat its most loyal members. This is, look, Hyatt, I'm not saying is a perfect hotel company by any means. However, you got to give them credit. When they devalue, they let you know about it. Like well in advance, like sufficiently enough time to make a booking, use your points, and they're acting in a very customer-friendly way. And I think that says something about the company culture and the way they want to run their loyalty program as a program that wants to reward members. And look, yes, as inflation increases hotel prices and the economics change at these redemptions, they may have to do devaluations. That's fine. But they're trying to do it in what I would say a much more ethical way than other dynamic programs do. And look, Hilton is not the only dynamic hotel program. It's certainly not the only dynamic loyalty program. But what I think is uniquely bad here is just the frequency of the devaluations and how they are happening back to back and the level of how significant they are. I think even on a lot of other dynamic programs like Bonvoy, look, I hate it. I hate the way it's dynamic, but they haven't nearly devalued as bad as Hilton has, at least in this time frame. Same thing with IHG. Look, it's dynamic. You can still get some pretty good value out of it. A lot of airline dynamic miles. Look, I don't love United miles, but and they've done a lot of bad devaluations, but it's not this bad. I still love Hilton properties. There's some of my favorite Hilton luxury redemptions, right, that I've done, like Waldorf Astoria Beverly Hills, Waldorf Astoria Los Cabos Pedregal, Waldorf Astoria Maui, Waldorf Astoria Dubai International Financial Center. Love all those properties. Okay, maybe not as much Waldorf Maui, but the other ones, love them. Great hotels, super luxurious. It's a shame that this is happening. I wish it wasn't, but just plan accordingly and just remember that you should never really be loyal to any company, or at the very least, if you are going to be, just remember how they treat their most loyal customers and just remember that for future because, it's an indication of how they're trying to behave as a company and what they're trying to set the culture of their loyalty program to be like. I hope this was helpful. I will see you in the next one.